Hello, everyone. Great to see all of my friends on LinkedIn today. I'm here with my amazing friends, Bonnie and MJ, and my friend Veer as well, who is both in the IT and sales areas within his business and would like to introduce himself briefly.
Hi everyone, Veer here. Yes, I've been in the strategy field for last 20 years, and now I'm growing my sales business, and I'm also expanding as a fractional CTO. So, you know, so that's what I'm looking at, and that's what I'm growing. And nice to see all of you here. Nice meeting you.
Very nice to meet you.
Yes.
Yes, this is awesome. I love having online and in-person friends. One moment, everyone. All right, I had to say a quick goodbye because we're here in this like trade station area, you know, doing mixing the real life and the online. So great. Love having all these friends. Super excited for the forum on May 12th. Um, I'm so excited for all of the activity. But I am here with Bonnie and MJ and myself as well. We will all be presenting our own master classes, and our different areas of expertise really intersect this topic of managing emotions in the sales process, with Bonnie helping entrepreneurs and others calm anxiety, and MJ is a business development specialist. I help with relationship building and business development as well. So we are going to kick off this discussion. So, ladies, if either of you would like to jump in and go ahead and start sharing some thoughts about managing your emotions in the sales process.
Yeah, I guess I will hop right in. So, hey everyone, I am MJ Allen. And so, in terms of just managing your emotions during the sales process, as a business development professional, it can be very challenging when you are looking at things from I guess, a transactional way. A lot of individuals, especially, with me, I work with a lot of early stage tech founders. And so when you're in the midst of uh, trying to figure out and find who your ideal client is or your ideal customer, sometimes you can get very distracted by wanting to get a sale, and it can turn into a transactional moment or a transactional sale, which honestly is it's not good. It's not good. You never want to put yourself in a position where things are done in a transactional way, especially if you want to have repeat business, right? You want to make sure that you're building that relationship, that you're finding out different ways you're adding value. You're figuring out a way to make sure that you're servicing that user or that customer, that client, in ways where it's more or less you're adding value to them, and it not being a transactional a moment. In terms of just your emotions as a business development person, you will hear a lot of no's. You will hear a lot of no's. But at the end of the day, you just have to keep pushing. You have to make sure that you learn from conversations. You approach them with more of an optimistic outlook versus pessimistic, I believe. Um, and just know that a yes is near. So I'll pause there.
That was great. That's a really practical perspective. So, and I know Bonnie and I are in David Meltzer's coaching group, and that whole time, MJ, I was thinking about the 25 no rule, but it could even be 100. I mean, 25 is definitely a minimum number. That 25 no's to a yes. Bonnie is more so on the side of having a lot of tools and strategies specifically with the anxiety that can come up, again, as you mentioned, MJ, that hearing no can be stressful. So, Bonnie, what would you like to share with us on this topic?
Yeah, so I love this is actually a great transition. For me, and I've actually been having a lot of conversations about this lately. It's about setting an intention and not having an agenda. And that's where, when you have an agenda about somebody else's expectations about what somebody else is going to do, that's where that transactional interaction really comes into play, is when you're just looking for a sale and you're not looking for a relationship. And just to reiterate what MJ said, when you're looking at everything as purely a transaction, I mean, think about when you jump on Amazon and buy a product, like you're not looking to make friends with somebody. And unless there's some kind of exceptional customer service that comes with that product, you're not going to be out seeking to work with or buy from that company again, right? So for me, and I know this is starting to get thrown around a little bit more, but it's so true. It's about building relationships. I was very fortunate when I started my first business, Posh Notions, that I made friends with a lot of my clients, and that wasn't like something I set out to do necessarily. It just seemed to be that I was attracting people into my life that had similar interests and whatnot. We were both kind of getting our companies off the ground. But also, I never treated people as a number, right? And so to kind of go back to the stress part of it, that comes up with uncertainty. The stress and the anxiety comes up with any kind of uncertainty and worrying about the outcome of something. And so really, more of, I guess, an esoteric but practical way is setting that intention and not having an agenda, because you can't be disappointed if you're not trying to expect something in particular out of a specific person, and just kind of hoping that everything, setting the intention that everything is going to work out the best for everyone involved. And sometimes there's certain people that you don't want as your clients. It took me a long time to actually understand that, especially in like the formative years of my first business. I was like, no, I need the money. Like, I'll take anybody. And once I realized that's not the case, I had some clients that were just downright nasty. We'll just put it that way. And I just realized, like I said, that you don't need to nor want to necessarily work with anyone. And building the relationships, building those friendships also lends to, like MJ said, repeat business and also referrals. So it's really in your best interest to do that. And all of that over time is going to help reduce your overall stress and anxiety, because you're not worried about the outcome, right? So that's what I have to share about that in particular today. Definitely get into some of the tactical, tips for when you do get in that moment of feeling extra stressed and anxious.
I actually, you know what? I know that you guys, the three of us, have a lot of conversations about like signs, synchronicities, and like the universe and the different people that are like brought into our lives, and just the openness. And like Bonnie kind of touched on this with the intention versus agenda. Anyways, right. So the intention for me today, is to just come on here and have a good discussion with you guys. I had no idea who would show up. I had no idea that Veer would be willing to say hi. But anyways, I want to give a shout out. I don't know if this comment posted on LinkedIn where Christine is watching, but Christine Coley hired me into my first sales role. So gosh, it almost feels fitting that she's here. My first physician staffing job when I was 23. She took a chance on me, having no experience. I don't know that she would call it that. I think that she believes that it was her own hiring skill, and I don't want to take that away from her. But Christine invested a lot of herself in teaching me like a lot of these business basics. And like one of the things that we worked on together was building relationships because like in physician staffing, I mean, it was interesting to see how different people operated, but the people who were really at the top of the game, who were like actually making a lot of money and like had serious books of business, they had like real relationships. And like I was able to see that example, but Christine like really coached me on figuring out like how to document and like keep in touch with people and like build the relationships consistently over time. And like though I've pretty fully moved on from that industry and I'm in sort of a different realm now with like different goals and different people involved, I'm just really touched. Like when it comes to relationships, I mean, Christine, we're not always like in touch, you know, so frequently, but the relationship is strong enough that like I have a lot of gratitude for her. And I'm like really happy that she decided to take the time today to watch us. So that was a bit of a lengthy shout out, but I'll turn it back over to you guys.
I'm just gonna say you can see what an impression that leaves, right? Like you built this relationship, it came around full circle. 23, that was a while ago. And because you obviously learned something from her about building relationships, or she wouldn't be coming around, you know, I'm not going to give your age away, but X amount of years later. But that just goes to show you, like people invest in people. People want to be around people. People don't give two craps about what they come home with in their Target bag. But if they have a really great interaction with the cashier, you know, that's the kind of stuff they're going to remember. And so just back to what we were saying about the importance. Here's the other thing I want to say to help reduce and lower your stress and getting out ahead of it, is don't make it so complicated, right? I, for one, was like the master of overcomplicating, over planning, like overdoing it. And after learning many different times and many different lessons, many ways about that, I finally learned that the simpler, the better. And I think Janine, it might have been you and I were talking about, maybe Terry, I don't remember, but it's like, remember like you were a kid and you'd go up on the playground. I've used this example before, but you'd see like another little girl and you'd be like, I like your dress. And she's like, I like your shoes. Do you want to play? And that was it. You know what I mean? It was like that simple little compliment, you know, and little thing you had in common. And then that's this person you'd be talking to and going to prom with, you know, how many years later. So like, don't try to make it super complicated, because I think that's another thing that contributes to that feeling of disappointment. If we feel like we've done all this planning, we put all this effort in, and we go and reach out to this person and they're not what we expected. And then we're upset, not sometimes misdirected at that person, but because we put all of like overcomplicated the whole process. So yeah, just the simpler, the better. Reach out and just start saying hi to people. Like finding something of interest and just really genuinely wanting to be of value is going to reduce your stress and your anxiety in the long run, in the short term and the long run, actually.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, in terms of overcomplication of just the interaction in itself. Uh, One of the things that I'm learning when you are reaching out to people, especially through cold outreach, right? You definitely want to take a multi approach to the outreach. Sometimes it's just not sending that cold email. Sometimes it's making a connection somewhere else. Sometimes it's not even done immediately. You may want to just, you know, do your research, see what you guys have in common. I remember when this was probably a few months ago on the live e-commerce platform, or live e-commerce podcast. There was a guy that came on, and while doing my research, I found out that he was a huge Pittsburgh Steelers fan, which I am as well, right? Yes, exactly, right? And just out of nowhere, that was our connection. It was like doing the research. He hopped on the podcast. I mentioned that. To me, that was like where we connected at, where we're like, yes, we love the same football team, right? So you want to take your time. You want to take your time. You don't want to rush the process, right? You want to connect somewhere, start to give compliments, genuine, real compliments, right? Start to add value. I'll say very briefly, it's this young lady. I met her over the weekend at the Talia Waheed trade show, right? She has a dope concept on a calendar, a hair calendar that she put together. And immediately I'm just like, ideas start to flow in, right? We've had a brief conversation, but I'm figuring out ways how I could reach out to her and have a conversation about that, about how I can benefit her, how I can add value to her, right? Because I see where what she is, putting out and what she's designing, where it's a need. And regardless if I'm a part of it or not, I'm doing my due diligence to make sure that I'm adding value in a way that I can, right? Just being real, being honest, knowing that this could potentially be something that I'll purchase in the near future, because again, it's just a space that I'm in, with having natural hair as well. So, yeah, you don't want to overcomplicate it. You want to just make sure that, I love what you said, Bonnie, about being the young lady on the playground, because we relate to that. Even in the stores, like now you see someone in line. If you like something, what does it hurt to pay a compliment? It takes nothing away from you to take that moment to pay that compliment. So I love that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. As adults, I think some of us feel weird, right? Like talking to somebody that we don't know. It's just another thing that takes practice, really. I'm gonna have a hard time. I'm still basically like in lockdown quarantine for like the last 2+ years. I kind of lost track of time. And like I'm like, what am I gonna do when I go back out in like actual public, like start interacting with people in person? It's gonna be kind of weird. But I was that not was like it's disappeared, but like when I was going out in public, that was my thing, was paying attention to that kind of stuff, especially those people who kind of look like they could use a little pick me up. Especially as an empath, I kind of pick up on those things. You can usually tell in somebody's, just even in their face or the way they carry themselves. But people remember that. And I've heard some really great stories, and I'm not going to go too into detail right now, but like people that were considering, not being here anymore, and somebody who just said hello to them and asked them how their day was going, a stranger. And that was all it took for them to go, wow, like I'm worth, sticking around, and somebody's paying attention to me. And they may never see that person ever again, but that was enough. And so, yeah, it's definitely, like you said, genuine. Like you don't want to be fake, because people can read into that too. I was just having a conversation with my daughter about that. I was like, you have to show some enthusiasm to my 5-year-old. She's like, I'm like, pick something that you really like and go with that, because you're the worst at faking. Anyways, little side note. I'm going to hand it back over to Janine.
This has been such a great conversation. There's been so many like amazing, spontaneous surprises and like so many great points. And like Bonnie, shout out to you, because like Bonnie, you're doing an amazing job for, as you said, for just staying in your home and not really going out yet. You are like serious about connecting with people. And like for anyone watching this, please connect with Bonnie online. Please reach out for her scheduling link, because Bonnie is, MJ is amazing as well. You could do that with MJ too, but MJ is at least going to the conferences in person. Both of these ladies are super cool, but Bonnie is like solely relying on meeting people on the internet and she is killing it with that. So like major shout out there. But yes, MJ is an amazing person to schedule with as well, but you can also catch her at conferences and she'll post about that too. So just one, I guess, last note, again, from my amazing friend, Christine. This was a great point, and this is actually, again, with these like kind of signs, this is honestly relevant for me today because it's a lesson worth repeating, that about focusing on the relationship over the pitch. Because I know, and I mean, MJ touched on this, like we've all touched on this, but it's worth repeating that it's easy to get in your own head about like your goals, and there's this impatience with getting there and like what you think you need, and like, you know, I have to pitch so I can close, and then I have money and I'm meeting my goals, and like, yeah, I mean, that stuff does need to happen, but it needs to come from a place of like, we're friends and you like me and want to work with me, not just like I pitched so I could hit my number. So that was a great comment too.
Yeah, I agree with that. Goals are great, but the good analogy. I don't know if you have kids, MJ. I know Janine, you don't, but I've got 4 kids ranging from 22 to 5.5. You can tell that story another day. But anyways, and I completely lost my train of thought. That's what happens. Go ahead. I had a really great point and I completely forgot.
You know, Bonnie, we both have my daughter, she just recently turned 22.
Okay.
So yes, I have kids, and my son he'll be 17 in June.
Okay.
And I have 2 stepdaughters as well. So I got 4 in total too. But to the point of carrying or focusing on a quota, and then even also having that hunter mentality, because you would see that a lot, right? The whole you have to do this, you gotta meet these numbers. Let me tell you something. If you're playing the long game, not everyone that you are approaching is even ready for whatever it is that you're selling. But that does not mean, like, I look at a no as not yet, not now, definitely somewhere in the future, hopefully. But I'm playing a different game. And when you are pitching your services or having conversations with people, you have to make sure that the person that you're having these conversations with, they understand as well, like, okay, well, where in this process do you fit? Where in looking at their business, looking at, are they even ready to buy? Are they really ready to do that type of business with you? They may not be ready. And you have to respect that. That doesn't mean that you cut the conversation. That doesn't mean that you don't pay that compliment. That doesn't mean that you don't serve them. You know, that means that you figure out a way, you give them the time, you know, again, it's not now, but it doesn't mean that just because they're not ready, it's like, okay, you're throwing them to the wolves. Like, I just, for me, it just doesn't fit. So
yeah, that's a good point about planting that seed, right? And watering it, nurturing it, and growing it until they are ready. And if they're still not ready, I mean, that's okay. Like, not everybody's going to be a fit for what you're doing. But back to Janine's, I remembered that the point I was trying to make is that I think a lot of times people are chasing the sale, just constantly focused on the sale, and not building relationships. Are going to end up with really fat bank accounts and really miserable lives. And that's why I started to talk about my family. It's like, one of the things that's really important to me is making sure that I spend a specific amount of time with each of my kids every single day, you know, a minimum amount. I've learned that from David. Going from being 24/7 mom working out of my dining room to actually having my own office, it's changed the dynamic between myself and my kids. But I'm not the type of person who wants to get to my deathbed with, you know, $1 billion in the bank and nobody standing at my side. Like, I don't want to alienate people or look at them as dollar signs. Like, I'd much rather have a smaller bank account and have a lot of love and a lot of friendships and a lot of relationships and people that I can count on, who can count on me, kind of thing. So that was the point I was trying to make when my my brain moment.
That's amazing. That's such a beautiful sentiment. I'm so grateful for both of you guys, Bonnie and MJ. I'm so glad that like the three of us have come together to create and help and serve and get the message out and just make friends. You know, I'm so grateful for each day that we work together like on that process. I'm so glad to have you guys and to have like built this amazing little team. I do want to respect everyone's time, that I know we've got to go ahead and get going, but we will be back next week, Friday, noon-ish. You know, we'll get that messaging out shortly. Thank you to everyone who attended. Thank you to Christine. We're signing off now. See you guys soon. I'll try to wave and hold the tablet at the same time. Oh, wait, let's try this hand. Bye.